Have you ever felt like every single day you wanted to quit junk food, but you just couldn't figure out how to do it? I resonate with you because for literally many, many years, nearly my whole entire life, I could not quit junk food. I was someone that was extremely addicted to eating these highly processed foods. And this led to me battling with my weight and also many health issues for many, many years. I had gut issues, brain fog, fatigue. I was overweight. My joints were inflamed. But no matter how bad I felt or how motivated I was, I could not quit junk food. It all started around age 14 when I got to the age where I was able to make my own decisions. And I think we all get to an age where we then steer away from our parents and we start to make our own choices in life. And for me, that was around 14. Now, I wasn't completely, making every decision in my life. As soon as I started eating it, I was very, very addicted to it. And this led me to becoming quite overweight in my young years in school. At school, it was very clear that people would make jokes about my weight and stuff, and it made me feel really, really insecure. And I just didn't feel good at my body. Throughout my years, I had always looked at junk food as kind of a support for my feelings. And I think that most people have this issue. Eat when we're depressed, we eat when we're happy, we eat when we're sad. And this is why people get so addicted, because we look at this as a sort of escape from life. So I'd done this for many, many years. It actually led into where I was just binge eating constantly because I was either stressed or I was restricting too much. And then it led me to overeating on these junk foods. Until around age 21, 22, I then started to really, really overcome my sugar addiction. And it was something that I had to accept, that I was addicted to these foods and I was using these as a coping mechanism so that I could move forward. I now am almost 24 and I haven't eaten junk food for a very, very long time. And I never crave junk food when I'm emotional, or I don't look at it to give me support in my life. It's not something I crave ever. If I crave anything, it's healthy, natural foods. And I didn't know I could get to a place like this. It is generally possible to do this, but we just have to take the right steps and we have to have a better understanding of junk food and the role it plays in society. So first of all, we can explain junk food and why it is so heavily consumed in our society. What we have to understand is that junk food is very addictive. We could break it down to the core and we can even look at the colors of packaging. Junk food has been created to be as addicting as possible and to trigger all of our ancestral senses to make it more appealing to us. So if you walk down the aisle in the shop, you will see that they have all these bright colors. They have characters on them for the kids, basically stimulating your mind to be as intriguing as possible. This is clever, and this is why they've done it, is so that we're more likely to pick up these things because they stand out. They're very intriguing. They create emotion in us. And that is why people end up buying a lot of it. But it also comes down to they have made these foods so addictive. They have literally hired psychologists to find out they can make these foods as addicting as possible. They do this by finding ways to stimulate your dopamine as much as possible. Dopamine is created when you feel pleasure, when you feel very, very happy. But what we understand about dopamine is it makes you feel good, but everything has to come down. And when your dopamine levels eventually drop, you feel a bit depressed, you feel a bit sad, which then makes you search for dopamine even more. And then it's this constant loop. And that's what I was on for so many years. I would eat these junk foods, I would go up, I would feel really good, and then I would crash, and then for days I would feel awful, and then it triggered me to then eat more junk food, and this massive cycle. So first of all, I had to understand that these foods have been created in a way that are messing with my hormones, my dopamine systems, to make these as addicting as possible. So I was very addicted to these foods, but they have been created to be like this. It's not just that I was just addicted to it. This is how they create these foods, and most people don't understand this, and it's not wildly accepted, right? If you said to someone, oh, I don't eat junk food because I'm addicted to it, people are like, what? I'm an alcoholic. Then people kind of understand it. With food, they don't. The difference with food is that you can't just completely cut out food, whereas you can with alcohol, you can with these other substances. So we still have to find a way to be able to move forward in a more positive light and look at food in a different way. So what we have to understand is that they are creating these foods in this way to get this outcome from us, which means they get more money from us, which means that we stay addicted to these foods and we can't quit them, and the cycle repeats. So understanding this information, we then must understand that we need to be eating foods foods that don't cause this massive reaction in our bodies, this massive dopamine spike, because we want to limit this as much as possible because we don't want to be becoming addicted to these foods. This was the first change I had to make, and this was completely changing my diet. Diet is everything. Your diet's either going to work for you or work against you. So I had to really go down the route of changing my diet, eating natural foods, and really getting these junk foods out of my diet. Is it easy? No, it took a couple weeks for my body to adjust. It was very hard to overcome it because, like any addiction, you are having withdrawals from sugar, which is very, very normal. But I knew that this was the most important thing that I needed to do for my body and myself. I couldn't get caught stuck in this loop ever, and I really wanted to make a positive change in my life. This led me down to finding out about the carnivore lifestyle. I don't do the carnivore diet now, but it was one of the tricks I used to really help disconnect from sugar. Sometimes when we're eating high calorie fruits or lots of fruits in general or carbohydrates, this can stimulate us to want to eat these junk foods. So when I first quit junk food, I actually went onto a ketogenic carnivore lifestyle, which completely cut out all of these triggers. And what I saw is over time, my body started to crave sugar less and less. And this is due to me being able to burn ketones and be able to burn fat. We know that on a ketogenic diet, you have way less cravings once you are fat adapted. At the start, it can be difficult, but over time it will come down. Then later on, I was able to then add in fruits, a little bit of berries, honey, and then I started to progress now, and I'm able to eat them without having these massive cravings. But what you have to do is understand that you need to get these junk foods out. That is not going to trigger your dopamine in a way that the other foods would. So the second tip was actually eating more protein and fats. Proteins and fats are amazing for your satiety levels. It's amazing for keeping you fuller for longer because they take a lot longer to digest, and they decrease the ghrelin hormone, which is the hormone that makes you hungry. This is because your blood sugar is being controlled in a better way, which means your insulin is being controlled, which means your ghrelin is not spiking as much. Instead of prioritizing my diet around carbohydrates like we've been told to, or low fat, I started to prioritize my diet around proteins and fat, and then I would add little bits of carbohydrates in around it. Now we are doing a complete mindset shift. We are not prioritizing carbohydrates, we are prioritizing proteins and fats. We're helping our hormones, we're helping our hunger levels, and then we are just stopping craving addicting foods so much. Start to prioritize your diet around carbohydrates and not making carbohydrates the essential for what you are doing. If you're an athlete, that's going to be very different, but most people aren't training 4 or 5 hours a day. Most people are just living normal sedentary lives. Now, the next point is actually understanding my emotional triggers. Addictions stem from emotion, and this is where they come from. No one gets addicted to something just because they are happy. It doesn't happen. It comes from negative emotions, and it's usually past experiences. When we are eating junk food, we are trying to cover up an uncomfortable emotion in the body. We must understand why we are feeling this emotion, and we must deal with this emotion in much more positive ways. If we do not deal with these emotions, these traumas, we are going to continue to stay in the cycle. And the key to actually helping my cravings go down dramatically was actually meditation. It was very uncomfortable at the start because we are having to go in and deal with things that cause us issues, cause us to be uncomfortable. But as you do this more and more, you start to process these emotions, you start to process these bad thought processes, you start to calm down more, and your cravings go down. Are having addictions because we are trying to get rid of this uncomfortable feeling of what we are feeling, and it's usually sad or a depression. When you are meditating, you're creating more positive emotions, and you will find your likelihood for cravings will drop dramatically. 15 minutes of meditation completely changed my life and my cravings and my binge eating. It was insane. And anytime I would get these strong urges, I would sit down and do something positive rather than negative, and I wouldn't run away from these uncomfortable feelings I was feeling. Now, sometimes there are going to be events in your life that are so stressful that you cannot handle them right away. And this is completely normal, but you need to try and not self-sabotage. Go for a walk, or even just scroll on your phone just to take your mind away. Now, I know this sounds very counterproductive, but when you are in such pain, sometimes you just need to distract yourself for now and then come back and deal with it at a later date, maybe a couple of days later, but don't let it fester on for too long. Try and address it as quick as possible. Sit down, meditate, breathe, take some time for yourself, and after, you will find that your cravings start to literally disappear after your meditation, and this is because you are able to control those emotions. The next point was understanding that you do not have to give into these temptations. We are having a strong urge, and I can really resonate with you if you are having this issue, because some of the urges I used to have for junk food was insane. I could not stop myself. But what we have to understand is we have different parts of the brain. You have a logical part of your brain, and you have the part of the brain that isn't so logical. And usually this is called the lizard brain. The lizard brain is your subconscious mind, which is triggering you to do things that you know you probably shouldn't do, but you end up doing them because you know that it's bad for you, you know that it's not good for you, but you still do it anyway. What you have to understand is you do not need junk food to live. You do not need to give into this craving, and it's going to be tough. But what happens is the more you give into this craving, the stronger the cravings become. The less you give into these cravings, the weaker the cravings become. When you are going through this process, you are going to fail sometimes, and this is completely normal. So please remember this. But what you have to do is try and push longer than you did last time. So let's say that right now you get a craving and within 5 minutes you give into it. What I want you to do is go 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, and over time your cravings are going to get less and less. Most people say, oh, you just got to quit it and it will be done. But what you have to do is you have to do in increments, because we are humans. Addictions are hard to overcome. We must be able to recognize the craving, understand what's happening, and then push it as long as possible to the point that we're like, okay, I can't control this anymore. I just have to do it. You are then making progress, and it's going to get less and less, and you're going to get more comfortable with these feelings of these cravings, which then leads to less over time. This is the key. You will stumble. It happened to me so many times on the process to overcoming it. It took me a lot of failure, but each time I would push it as long as possible. But most importantly, I would be present and I would understand, okay, this is what's happening. I'm going to push it as long as I possibly can. Over time, it gets less and less. Other point is to be sufficiently hydrated. When you are dehydrated, you are going to crave sugar. What you have to do is understand your electrolyte levels. When you are stressed a lot, you are going to have a lot of issues with your electrolytes because you are producing a lot of adrenaline, which of course, to combat this, your body is going to release histamine, which then histamine, your body is going to use a lot more sodium. So we have to understand that hydration plays a key role. We have to make sure we are hydrating properly and hydrating with electrolytes. You can have sugar cravings, intense sugar cravings, just because you're dehydrated most of the time. Once I started to hydrate with electrolytes, hydrate with salt in my water, I found that these sugar cravings dramatically go down. If you're finding you're kind of in a spot where you're like, oh my God, I need something, go and have some salt water and see if it helps. And I guarantee you it will massively. And the last one that I'm going to touch upon is actually fasting. Fasting can help you become more metabolically flexible. It can help you tap into fat burning a lot more efficiently. If we are constantly on a blood sugar spike because we are eating, we're obviously going to crave glucose and sugar more. Fasting can actually teach you a healthy relationship with food, which people think that it does the opposite. They think that if you fast, you've got, problems with eating, etc., etc. But what it actually does is it teaches your body about cravings, it teaches your body about hunger signals, and it teaches you that you don't need food as much as you think. And fasting has been a major tool in this. We don't want to be pushing fasting so much to the point that you're under eating and then you're wanting to binge eat. But we need to understand that we don't need to be eating constantly all the time, that our bodies are efficient at burning fat as fuel. Go on a little bit of experimenting with fasting, seeing how that feels for you. Oh, can I do 16? I feel amazing. Can I do 18? And taking it from there. And over time, you're going to build a much healthier relationship with food. But apart from that, it's just embracing the journey and embracing that this will take time. You are going to fail, but you've got to get back up and you've got to keep attacking it. That is normal. If you have a slip up, you are human. You are not a robot. You have not failed. If you are continually trying to do better than you did last time, then you should be proud of yourself. You should look at it as achievement and you just continue to move forward. These are the best tips that I've used to actually quit junk food and help heal my binge eating. And I really hope this can help you or bring you some knowledge. I did put this on my Instagram and I noticed that a lot of people were struggling with this. And if you are struggling with this, I am offering one-to-one coaching, which I can help build a better protocol with you and go through this with you one-on-one to really help reduce the likelihood of falling into this binge eating addiction cycle. Hope this has helped. Please like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.